back in primary school, I liked this girl. And I liked her so much that I actually named my Clash of Clans clan after her. But that's another story for another day. Anyways, in this case, in this video, I want to talk about the time when we were going to meet up on this little basketball date thing where we were just going to meet at the school, play some basketball because we were both into it at the time and just, talk about life. And we were discussing like when to meet up. And I can't actually remember the exact details, but I think she said something like she was going to go in the evening. But there must be some miscommunication because I was going to go, but it turns out she wasn't going to go, but I didn't know that. And so by the time I left my house, it was already like getting dark. And so I went to my primary school. It was pitch black there. And I was just waiting for her. I was walking around, waiting for when she was going to come. I was circling the entire school, hoping she'll be there. I was messaging her, like, where you at? She didn't reply. And I just stayed at the school for a solid, probably like 30 minutes, just in the dark, as a primary school kid, just waiting for a girl. And eventually, I guess I kind of just got the sign, and I headed back home. I was like, nope, she wasn't there, and yeah, I guess that was just just a bad experience. Maybe next time. So I made my way back home. It was already like pitch black at that stage, and I was walking back down. I was walking down this hill back home, and suddenly I see a flashlight. I see a guy or someone in front of me with a flashlight pointing towards me. And he was like walking towards me quite fast. And I got quite scared. I was like, who is this guy? I thought, was that the girl? But it doesn't look like a girl. It's quite like tall. Definitely like a man. And I kind of just froze in the moment. I was like, shit, like, who is this? Am I going to get like robbed? Am I going to get just kidnapped? Like, what's going to happen? And the figure with the flashlight kept coming closer, until suddenly I realized that was my dad. My dad had realized I had left the house. It was pitch black. He didn't hear from me or get a message. He just knew I was outside, like at school, while it was pitch black, and he couldn't get a hold of me. And so what happened was he rushed out of his house, and with a flashlight he came to find me. And then eventually he met me at the like on the way home. He basically yelled at me. He was like, "This is irresponsible." Told me some story, lecturing me about how kids get kidnapped even close to school, which kind of like traumatized me for a bit. But that was kind of that. Eventually, we did meet up with the girl, but yeah, we just stayed friends. Yeah. Anyways, so the reason I want to share this story is because at the time, I kind of let my emotions dictate my actions, even when it was not logical at all. It was not logical as a primary school kid to go meet up and play basketball when it was pitch black outside, like when it was like 10 p.m. And school isn't like close by. I had to walk like 10, 15 minutes to get to school. And so that's definitely not the time where two primary school kids, we were like, how old were we? Like maybe 10, 11 at the time, to be hanging out in the dark. But I want to mention it to the broader point because obviously like things like this haven't like happened on a one-to-one basis, but things have happened where I've let my emotions, whether it be romantic or just work related or like just general relationships, I've let that impact my decision making. And I've realized that it can be so negative, but at the same time almost inevitable, because when you're dealing with these emotions, it's so hard to not let them impact your actions. And I was talking to my mentor about it, about how sometimes I just know something is not right. Like I cerebrally understand that this is not the right action, but deep down I feel like I still have to do it. And that's a dangerous place to be because your brain, your logical side is telling you don't do it, but your heart is telling you you should do it. And oftentimes when your brain's not in charge and you're letting your emotions do it, you end up with, a lot of negative consequences. Luckily in this case, my dad found me before, let's say something bad happened. But in life, sometimes there's not going to be someone else to look after you. And so the consequences can be quite scary. And all in all, my mentor told me that if this is the case, where you're letting your emotions override your actions, you really need to have a more like strict logical center in your brain where every time you identify yourself as being controlled by emotions, you need to realize that and almost break the trap. You need to break the emotional trap that your emotions have on you and then act logically. It's very hard, but my mentor was like, this feeling is never going to go away. You're always going to have emotions. That's just human. But what you can do is set up the systems in place where you're able to check yourself and think, is this a logical thing to do in this situation? It's oftentimes so hard, especially if you're deep in a relationship or deep in the friend zone. Yeah, I'm looking at you. But that's just part of the journey. By being able to recognize your emotions and then being able to act logically. So with that, take care and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.